Hello, good evening, and welcome back to THU TV. I'm here with my very good friends, Alwyn and Spiridon, to talk about some really cool, interesting new projects that they have in the pipeline, and to kind of figure out how the business and money side clashes or fits nicely with the whole art side of things. Welcome.
Thank you.
Tell me briefly about what you're up to and why.
Well, I'm a graphic designer from Germany, and in May, when the IFCC in Croatia came out, when it happened, we started working together on a magazine, which is called Firestarter, and it basically evolves around all creative events on the world. Started off small with 7 events. Now we have 15 with the second issue, which will be presented at another event in the Netherlands, Playgrounds, and that's basically it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So is that the magazine?
Yes.
So I just had a quick leaf through it earlier. It looks beautiful, and it's like a super high-end. I used to be in publishing, in magazine publishing. That is a good-looking magazine.
Thank you very much.
And it's interesting. I want to get back to why a magazine, because that feels a bit retro. But before we do that, what do you do, sir?
Yeah, my name's Alwyn Hunt, and I'm sort of, one of the co-founders of the Rookies Awards. I'm also sort of a 15-year plus veteran of the visual effects industry. So the Rookies is essentially, like I was saying before, is a competition for students. It's run online. It runs from March through till June. We're just giving opportunities to students and recent graduates through internships and studio placements, and also prizes. We get lots of sponsors coming on board, offering up prizes.
So what kind of prizes? Is it like trophies,
yeah,
or is it money, or is it?
It's software, like lots of sort of software and hardware and that sort of stuff. And we try and sort of balance it out, so we're not giving it to all the winners. We actually distribute it along the way, so you might not necessarily be the overall winner to actually win prizes. We just we flatten it out a bit. And we had 3,000 sort of entrants this year from over 600 universities, training facilities, so it's a pretty big deal. And it's kind of the first place that students really, once they've graduated, it's a platform that they can showcase their work, start getting that confidence of getting their work out there. So that's the big thing that we find is, because a lot of the different platforms they get intimidated by. So the Rookies is set up in such a way that they're showcasing their portfolio. There's a lot of recruiters, there's a lot of people looking at it. There's a big community following it. So it's just giving that confidence to students to get their stuff up.
How long has it been going?
It's going for 9 years. So next year is going to be a 10-year. So we were originally called the CG Student Awards. And then we rebranded and introduced some new categories.
The Rookies is a lot sexier.
So yeah, it is. It's a hell of a lot sexier. People like the branding of it. 10 years next year. So we're going to do some big stuff. We've got some new initiatives coming through. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Awesome. So what kind of level are you getting? Are you getting like the best of the best, or is it?
Yeah, it's the best of the best. We work with studios, so it's kind of like a talent agency. So we're able to identify like where the best students are coming from in the world. The talent that we get coming through is phenomenal. Like seriously, as a senior texture artist in the industry, the work that we see coming through is just amazing. It blows my mind. It sort of scares me a little bit, because I'm like thinking these guys are juniors, and yet
hold them back so you can keep your job.
Yeah, But so we find the best, and then we're able to kind of offer them back to the studio. So we get, Weta Digital, MPC, the Frame Store, all the top studios.
I've heard of those guys.
MPC?
I've heard of those guys.
Yeah, they're a small company based in
like a little corner shop.
Botswana, I think. We get Epic Games, all the big studios support us. It's just, and some of the case studies that we get out of it, like these students that are now been in through the internships that have been there for now 7 years, are like leads, and they're actually rock stars in the industry, and they're always coming back to us going, "Thanks guys, you gave me the break in the industry." So we have these amazing success stories.
One more time, what's it called?
The Rookies.
And how do you find it?
Online, therookies.co.
But just search the Rookies, I guess.
Yeah, just search the Rookies. It should be at the top. I hope so. But no, it is. It's up there. So yeah, www.therookies.co. Yeah.
Awesome. Your new project, Firestarter. What is the idea and why does it exist?
So since THU is obviously not the only event which is happening around the creative industry, and they pop up around the world. It's very important, in my opinion, to give people an overview of what is happening where, because I talked to so many creatives who were in their own country and had no idea that like 2 hours away there was an event.
Right.
And they were just traveling all around the world, and it was right there. So instead of just posting constantly on Facebook and informing them and leaving it just on a website, which actually exists, it's firestartermagazine.com, I decided to do what I've been doing since 11 years. I went to print and started this magazine, and the support so far was overwhelming.
So how does that work then? So you bring a bunch of the magazines along to the events and hand them out or sell them, or?
Right now it works like there is a main event, which gets a huge chunk of the content so they can represent themselves, and they help me by giving this magazine to each person that comes to the event.
Right, in like the goodie bag kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's together with a badge so far.
Sure.
Because not all of them have these bags, but yeah, essentially that's it. And the goal is actually to have these on all events, which is, thanks to THU, looking very good so far. I had some very interesting talks.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about business.
Yes.
So I'm afraid to ask the scary questions. How does it make money, and who are your customers?
That's a good question, because it basically just tells you what this is about. It's a community magazine, which means I don't charge the community.
Right.
If I would do that, that would be pretty much leeching on the people I'm trying to help.
Right, exactly.
So I'm charging the companies that want to support the community. They can advertise in it, and they get placements on the homepage. And I do everything I can to help also other people who have streams and podcasts, so they support me with content, like interviews that they had, and I'm putting their name out there. Basically, it's about exposure. It's not the classic exposure dollar that everybody is afraid of,
Sure.
and the free exposure thing, because, I mean, in the right hands, exposure can actually be something very good and can turn to money, and with money, it's easier to help.
So who is a typical advertiser then, and what's in it for them? What do they try to
My
accomplish?
main advertiser at this point I mean, I'm very glad that they were very interested, is Wacom. And for them, I mean, they say it so often, and they actually mean it, and they have just proven it that they care about the community, and they support me in terms of printing cost. And yeah, it's them, and it's also studios. Besides that, also like companies like marketplaces for tutorials, and basically the classics. If you haven't looked in any magazine in the creative industry, it's these guys who will like to help.
And so the studios give you money to be in a magazine. Why? What do they get out of it? What is their goal?
They get out of it that they can present it's product placement in just the classic way, which scares many people, because they are mostly like, I want to advertise on Facebook, which we know is not exactly the same. When you're on an event and you're sitting somewhere and having like your downtime, it's always good to look through it, and then you have it on the next day again, and you look again through it, and this is basically something you hold in your hand.
Right.
I mean, I don't have to explain it to you in these terms, because you already know, but for those who don't know it, I think that classic advertising combined with the online content is something that shouldn't be underestimated.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think multimodal advertising and being able to reach people where they are. Is it being used as a recruitment tool as well?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I put the word out there for the right companies. Sometimes it was lacking because of the funding was out for that season already.
Right.
So, but the interest is, like I said, overwhelming.
But you're saying it's a pretty new project. Is this the first or second issue?
This is the second issue. The
Okay.
ICC was the first one. The second one is already now in print. I sent it off before I came here.
Exciting.
So it's coming out for the Playgrounds Festival, and it will be given out there in October.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Your business model is not entirely dissimilar.
No, exactly, yeah.
It's
And I was
got a lot
just
of-
listening to that and I was like, I'd probably
Wait
just
a
take some of
minute.
that.
But still, like, congratulations. What,
Thank
you,
you,
what
yeah.
you were just saying was just amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank
awesome.
you. No, that sounds good, that magazine. I need to get one myself, actually. Because you're always doing that. You're always looking like, where's the next festivals?
Yes.
And it's like, there's, having, through the rookies, attending different conferences and festivals, like I'm having to research to go, okay, which is the best one, and it's funny because it's something that we think about for the rookies, actually just for our target audience, being
Right.
able to go, is it worth for a student to go to CGRAPH or THU? And because, a lot of them are quite expensive, like, so, and just giving them a breakdown, go, this is what you get if you were to go to THU as a student.
Right.
So just trying to, have resources for students on the site for that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned you're doing competitions with a lot of different prizes, and there's like rankings and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I think before we started rolling tape, we mentioned that, or you mentioned that this is starting to be used for recruitment and for that kind of stuff as well, which I think is really interesting because a lot of people I'm speaking to here, they're quite early in their careers. They're quite, they're quite hungry. They quite want to try and do something like this. And I've had a few of these conversations now, and there seems to be a red thread developing, which is develop your craft, get better, work up a really good portfolio. That is half the work. The other half is getting it in front of the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like what you're doing is a really good way of, testing your mettle against your peers, but also just getting in front of the people who matter, who actually can sign the checks and who can potentially hire you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, because the focus is all about students and graduates, so it's not being diluted by, other artists or seniors or whatever. So, when recruiters come to the rookie site, and, we have major studio sponsors, so just going back to your questions about business and how we make money. So there's two sort of avenues. We have our studio sponsors that come on, so we act as a talent agency.
And when you say studio, what do you mean?
Like your MPCs, your frame stores, your Weta Digitals, your Epic Games. So these guys,
Right.
So essentially they'll have internship, an internship scheme. They'll say to us, we'll give you one seat to be able to try and find somebody that can fill that seat. So we're through the rookies, we get all these entries, and when we identify who a potential candidate could be for that internship seat. Awesome. So everyone that comes into the rookies, it doesn't matter if you're really, really good or really, really bad. It's like everyone gets ranked. Everyone gets a score. Everyone gets their work seen by industry. And then, once we are able to identify the candidates, the good ones that, are eligible visa-wise, they, tick all the boxes.
Yeah.
The studios get involved by actually having a judge from the studio, so there's this
fun.
sort of integration between, our industry professionals and the studios that are kind of then able to pinpoint who those candidates are.
Yeah. I think that's so important as well, because, I could judge as much art as I like. I'm not an artist in any way, shape, or form. I can say, that's pretty, that's not pretty. But ultimately, I don't know what makes a commercial piece of art or what makes a artist useful to a studio, right? Mm-hmm. So getting those guys involved is super, super exciting.
Yeah, and it's also, for them, it's important because they're also at different stages in their production cycle. Mm-hmm. So they might be going, okay, well, we need more modelling artists, like at the end of the rookies, or we need more comping artists or lighting artists or a generalist or whatever it is.
Right.
So at that point, when the rookie starts in March, they don't know where what their requirements are going to be, at the end of sort of June.
Makes sense.
So it's kind of flexible at that point. Then they're involved. They're like, cool, well, we need this type of artist. So that, it's that sort of working together with the studios and just making sure that it all sort of flows smoothly,
Right.
Yeah.
So the studios are obviously interested because they get talent, they have access to, the people doing that. Where else is the money coming from?
Also from our sponsors, so like the likes of Autodesk, who are our major sponsor. Without their support, there would be no rookies really.
Right.
And all our sort of Pixelogic, Wacom. We've got sort of all the top sort of prize sponsors on board, so they come through. They're essentially like sponsoring a category. So you might get like Pixelogic, for instance. They might just sponsor VFX and games. Maybe not so much of the motion graphics or something like that, so they
Right.
they can select whatever category they want. They get exposure on the site with that, and then we run, there's a whole bunch of features that they get with sponsorship, running sort of bespoke campaigns, social media campaigns, where we're running little sort of mini competitions and challenges.
Right. So for somebody like Wacom, they get in front of the people that they really want to speak to. It's like,
Yeah.
look, you need to know our brand, you need to know that we're a good product, et cetera, et cetera. So that's their opportunity. They might sponsor prizes or whatever for that category. And then for the user, it's good because ultimately they have an opportunity to get the exposure they need and they can win prizes from all that kind
Exactly,
of stuff. So
yeah.
what's in it for you guys?
For us, it's just about nurturing the next sort of generation of visual effects and gaming artists, and you know, like we're supporting the industry. You know, we've been in it for a long time, and we're, you know, we know where students are. We've been there before. Like I know how they feel when they graduate, and you know, it's an empty place. You know, especially when you send off your work and you're not getting any replies back, and it's scary. You know, you spent all this money in courses and what's the next step? And like for us, it's the rookies, that platform for them to be able to get the confidence to get their work up there. And they might not be, you know, they might not feel like they're at the top, but what it does, you know, we see people that enter for like 3 years in a row, and that means that, you know, recruiters that are looking, they're actually following your progress, and that's a really powerful, you know, selling point from when a recruiter's looking at that progress of an artist. So. There's lots of opportunities for students, you know, that they're talking with other people, other students from around the world. You're getting feedback, you know, the industry are looking, all the industry judges are looking. It's just focused solely on them, you know, which is the great thing.
But I think that actually dovetails really nicely with what we're doing here at THU.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of, I mean, that emptiness you mentioned.
Yep.
Like 2 years ago, before I came to this, I would be like, that sounds weird. But I think it's 100% true, right? You've done your courses, you sit there drawing in your room, you explore, and you do some stuff online. I feel like the person-to-person connection that happens at something like this is really important. But obviously you can't, well, unless you're you, you can't travel around to every single event out there.
Yeah.
But I feel like some of that is happening on places like the various art boards on your site, and you actually are able to pull out a lot of kind of inspiration and motivation from, you know, just measuring yourself against your peers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important because you're starting to learn, you know, just industry standards at that point when you're first entering in, because it's like you're putting yourself out there. Like this is it. You know, you've gone through university, you've done all your training. This is the first step, and it's like it's quite emotional for a lot of people because they're not too sure how people are going to respond to it. You know, and it's the same when you get your first job. Right. You know, you do your first piece, and you're getting that first bit of feedback or critique. And a lot of people take it personally, but they should never do that, right? But it's kind of breaking down those barriers, and that's how we've set it up. That's why we've got industry professionals coming. That's why you get a ranking. That's why you get all this stuff. It's like, this is, you know, your first step into it. Yeah.
And do you feel that events are an important piece of that as well?
That's fun because since I'm coming from a graphic design background, this is pretty much like the second event I'm attending besides the THU gatherings in Berlin. Mm-hmm. And IFCC already convinced me about that fact. It doesn't work without events because it's totally different when you try to represent your work as a creative person through a portfolio when you send a PDF, and it's something else if you actually make the effort and sit somewhere and have a conversation with someone. Because the entire conversation already pretty much decides if you are able to work in a team. People see that. Are you really introverted, or are you even shy, or are you someone who has the potential to who isn't like shy but can change, and people see that, the recruiters see that. I would absolutely say that events are necessary because all the magic that happens, and something that was mentioned at the opening ceremony, like seeing Carla Ortiz there with all the guys and people just bursting out with tears because they get the recognition that is which is different from the family. The mom saying, "Oh, this is a nice picture," but an actual professional you look up to is saying, "Let me look at your sketchbook." And it happened like an hour ago when I was at the Oasis. It was. You could see it when Moby took the portfolio and was just saying that, can I see your portfolio? And they were like, of course, yeah, please. Take it. And he was there, oh, nice and great and whatever. And you could practically see the eyes just right? It was amazing. So yes, people have to go to events as much as they can.
Yeah, we stress that as well. You know, like it's networking and is definitely is very important if you're a student and graduate. All those things that you said are spot on, bang on. Yeah.
It's
That's
magic.
amazing.
It's really magic.
Well, that's part of the point, right? That's part of the point why people bother. I mean, it's not like it's easy to, I mean, if you live next door, great, but for a lot of people, it's a lot of travel, and it's not, it's not that it's that expensive, but it is a real commitment.
Well, the good part is that it exists because you don't get this kind of thing like I started. You don't get it in graphic design.
Sure.
If you go to the THU in Berlin, for example, I mean, I know events, I just wasn't before at the events for this kind of creative people. But if you go to the other events, there are no recruiters. There are the agencies. And they like people who work good, who work fast, who work cheap. And it's not really about hard that much.
Right.
And I mean, you have the same thing with companies that work in this area. But the opportunity to have this recruitment and yourself as an artist, check out if these guys are the right for you, because if these people work there, this must be a good company. It's gold. It's just gold.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, just to kind of change tack a little bit, what's the biggest challenge you're facing on like a day-to-day basis in trying to figure out, what are you trying to accomplish and what's stopping you?
What's stopping us? I think, it's just, I think we've got so many ideas, it's just resources more than anything, like we've got, like I said, we've got a couple of new initiatives for next year, and I think we'd love to have like 10, but it's just, it's making sure that everything's done in a sort of a logical process. We're always trying to look fresh, whether it's through the website. We're always trying to, make things more streamlined. I think it's just resources really for us. I think that's kind of the biggest problem.
Is there a way of solving that? Or is it just a case of prioritizing and saying,
yeah, I think
we could do 100,000 things, but let's focus on these three?
Yeah, I think for us it's just focusing on it really, and just making sure that each stage that we do, it's done to the best of our ability, and then move to the next one. I think we've been caught a few times before where we've tried to take on too much and make things, and it just you just overextend yourself, right? So,
and I think that's actually one of the biggest problems you get with any business, right?
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start immersing yourself somewhere,
yeah,
the opportunities are there.
Yeah.
Right. There's so many pain points. There are so many things that could be done better. There's so many, and I think one of the biggest learnings you get early on is realizing that just because there's a problem out there that should be solved, does not necessarily mean that you are the one that needs to solve it.
No, exactly. And I was listening to Molly today during her speech, and just even hearing her sort of story, it's like, like she got a personal, like a virtual assistant, and was able to take a whole bunch of jobs away from her, and I think just working smart, like when you're starting your business, like you're wearing so many hats, like, you're doing the accounting, you're doing the marketing, you're doing social media, you're doing new business, you're doing everything, you got the tech side of it. It's like there comes a stage where you have to just trust in other people to start picking up that work, because you can't, it sacrifices growing the business.
Yeah.
So listening to her, I was like, yeah, that's exactly like where we're kind of at, or what we're going through at the moment. It's just like trying to find those resources now that we can trust in, and now be able to sort of take it to that next level.
So scary. In a way.
That's the
Yeah,
thing.
it's a fun scary though, you know what I mean? Because you've been through all that, so you've gone through the learning curve of each of those stages, and each one of them are big. Whether you're doing the accounting and you're having to learn new software, and these are really important things when you're doing business. There's always the creative and all the rest of it, which is the sort of the cherry on top. But like to keep the business moving, you have to learn, you have to understand, and like. I'm a texturer. I studied, I used to be a chef like years ago. So like the business side of things, like it takes time to learn. So but it's fun, And so once you've got that knowledge, then you're always aware about how things should be. So even once you've sort of moved it on and you're giving it to other people, you know how it should be. We can make more efficiencies in different areas.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a really interesting thing about running a business in general, right? You have to wear 10 hats, and you might be good at 3 of them, like really good at 3 of them. You can do another 4 or so. But there are stuff that, I know when I run my business is I'm terrible at sales. I hate doing it because I feel like it's just against who I am and what I do. And that was my number one realization, that, wait a minute, I don't have to do that. I can hire somebody to do it for me, or I can find somebody who actually likes this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
They're weird people, but there are people out there who like these kind of things. And that realization at some point where you go, wait a minute, the stuff I'm really bad at, other people are actually good at and love doing, there's a really obvious solution there.
Yeah.
And obviously you can't go immediately and hire loads of people because you don't have the money.
Yeah.
But at some point you realize that even if I do my very, very best at sales, I'm going to be a 3, right? If somebody else is lazy at sales, they're going to be a 7 because they're like natural, they love doing it. They live for picking up the phone and talking to people. And I think that's a really important realization, especially in early stage businesses, where you go,
when do I make that leap of trust, you know?
Yeah, and that is scary.
Yeah.
That is scary because
It's
ultimately,
not even business in general. If you just take the artists here, who try to do their accounting themselves, but probably will just hate it as much as, like you put it. Just imagine them. They could spend more time doing actual money and go to an accountant. And I mean, it's
well,
just
it is a scary thing to do because what you do is you go, okay, I have $100.
Yeah.
What do I spend that $100 on?
Exactly.
And you don't want to give it away because
Yeah.
you think, oh, I could go and do sales, or I could. Sales is a weird one because it actually gives you money, but I could go and do accounting, right?
Well put.
But the weird thing is, you could give that to someone, and suddenly, the time that frees up. I mean, the opportunity cost there for you spending the time on something you hate doing or not very good at, and I think that's something that. If you're running a small business, it's a really important thing to get to. But if you're a freelancer, and I think a lot of people don't realize that, if you're a freelancer, you can outsource that shit too.
Of course.
And say, look, get an accountant, get somebody who helps you with, if you're not a technician, get somebody else to build your website.
Get another freelancer.
Right, or get another freelancer, or even better, right, share the work and say, look, I do this for you for cheap, and you do that for me for cheap,
Exactly.
and let's work together. And I think it's kind of a pattern that I keep coming up to here. I've spoken to
Numerous,
100 people. And every single time somebody says, oh, I'm not very good at this one thing. I was like, well,
outsource it.
there is a solution for that.
And it's funny because that's kind of, when you're at that point, then you're taking your business into another level, right? Because then you're having to manage staff.
Right.
So that also requires another skill set.
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary within itself because
Yeah.
you're having to then pay these people, and you've got, you know, in Australia, you've got, you know, superannuation, you've got all these different things. So then the learning curve goes up again. So then and I love it, you know, running my own business, like it's great, you know, it's exciting, you know, especially startup. And I think, you know, when you're in it and you seem like it's really tough, like when you're, you know, doing it tough and you're starting out. But actually, when you look back, I think it's probably one of the most fun periods.
Sure.
It's because you can pivot really quickly. You can change shit. You go, I don't like that. I'm gonna, you know, do it differently next year, and you can quickly adapt and change. As soon as you start introducing new, you know, staff and all the rest of it, it becomes more complicated. So, I think you got to enjoy the journey. You know, that's the big thing. You got to enjoy the journey.
On that note, I think that's us for our 25 minutes. Thank you so much for
No
coming
problem.
today.